Tomorrow, at some point during the day, the two-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran expires. There is no signed deal. There is no confirmed second round of talks. There is no formally agreed extension. And when asked Friday night whether he would extend the ceasefire, Donald Trump said, "Maybe I won't extend it." That sentence, "maybe I won't extend it," is either a negotiating tool, a genuine signal, or both simultaneously. It is the kind of statement Trump deploys to create urgency on the other side. It is also, if taken literally, a description of a very real scenario, that tomorrow, April 22nd, the legal architecture of the pause expires without anything to replace it, and two countries that just spent 51 days at war are technically back in a wartime posture with no framework governing their relationship. This is April 19th, 2026. Day 51, the last full day of the ceasefire.
Let us go through everything that has happened in the past 48 hours and what the board actually looks like going into tomorrow. Start with the Hormuz picture, because it is the single clearest indicator of whether this situation is de-escalating or re-escalating. On Friday, Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi declared the strait completely open for commercial vessels. Trump welcomed the announcement. About 24 ships began moving toward the waterway. The first cruise ship since the war began, the Malta-flagged Celestial Discovery, empty of passengers, transited through, departing Dubai after 47 days stranded. But by Friday evening, Iran's Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf had already walked it back. With the continuation of the blockade, he posted, the Strait of Hormuz will not remain open. The condition was clear. Open Hormuz is contingent on lifting the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. The U.S. blockade of Iranian ports is contingent on a signed deal. The signed deal requires resolving the nuclear moratorium gap. The nuclear moratorium gap is 15 years wide. U.S. Central Command confirmed on Friday that the blockade has now turned away 21 ships since it began on April 13th. More than 10,000 sailors, Marines, and airmen, over a dozen ships, and dozens of aircraft are enforcing it. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs General Dan Kane said at a Pentagon briefing, "I'd like to emphasize during this pause that the United States Joint Force remains postured and ready to resume major combat operations at literally a moment's notice." That is the military picture on the last day of the ceasefire. Both sides still in position, neither standing down, the strait conditionally half open, the blockade fully in force, and the general in charge of U.S. forces saying the word pause, not ceasefire, not peace, and confirming they can resume bombing on a moment's notice. Now the diplomatic picture, and it is more active than the absence of a deal suggests.
Pakistan's mediation machinery has not stopped. Munir's trip to Tehran produced meetings with both Araghchi and Ghalibaf. Pakistani, Egyptian, and Turkish mediators are continuing to work the gaps between the two sides. The White House has said it feels good about the prospects of a deal. Trump told reporters Friday that talks could be happening over the weekend, meaning today or tomorrow. The specific scenario that multiple sources have described is not a comprehensive final agreement before April 22nd. The specific scenario is a ceasefire extension combined with a framework document, essentially both sides agreeing to pause for another 30 to 45 days while the details of the moratorium, Hormuz governance, and sanctions are worked out in subsequent rounds. That outcome would allow Trump to claim he is winning and close to a deal. It would allow Iran to claim it has not surrendered its nuclear rights.
And it would allow the global economy another 6 weeks to breathe before the next deadline. Whether that outcome materializes in the next 24 hours depends on one thing: whether Iran is willing to show enough movement on the enrichment moratorium to give the Trump administration something it can publicly characterize as progress. Not the full 20 years, not even 10 years necessarily, but enough movement from the 5-year position to make the administration's domestic political case that maximum pressure is working. Trump has been calling the war very close to over repeatedly. "We've beaten them militarily, totally," he told Fox Business. "I think it's close to over. I view it as very close to over." Those statements are political positioning, but they also create a constraint. Having publicly declared victory, Trump needs a deal that lets him ratify that narrative. A resumed bombing campaign would undermine the "we won" framing he has been deploying for 2 weeks.
The economic pressure on both sides today is worth quantifying because it is the engine underneath the diplomacy. Germany downgraded its 2026 economic outlook sharply, blaming the Iran war's impact on global energy prices. The IMF cut its global growth forecast to 3.1% for 2026. The IEA said oil posted its largest ever monthly gain in March. Brent crude has risen more than 40% since February 28th. U.S. average gasoline prices are at $4.13 a gallon, up $1.14 per gallon since the war began. The midterm elections are 7 months away. On the Iranian side, the blockade has halted essentially all maritime trade. Iran's own assessment of war damage is between $300 billion and potentially $1 trillion. The Iranian rial has collapsed. Inflation is running at 40% domestically. The internet blackout entered its 46th day this week.
And despite the ceasefire, the IRGC minimum age for checkpoint duty was reportedly lowered to 12, a signal of how severely the military has been degraded. Both sides have enormous economic incentives to end this. The question is whether the political incentives, Iran's sovereignty narrative on nuclear rights, Trump's domestic need to demonstrate strength, allow the economic logic to prevail. Secretary of State Marco Rubio added another pressure layer this week that deserves attention. In Paris on Friday, Rubio told European foreign ministers that they need to make an important decision very soon on the snapback mechanism, the clause in the 2015 nuclear deal that allows the UK, France, and Germany to trigger the reimposition of sweeping UN sanctions on Iran if they declare it in non-compliance. Rubio said, "Iran is nearing the capability to develop a nuclear weapon," and urged Europe to act. The snapback mechanism does not require a U.S. vote.
It can be triggered by the European three, the UK, France, and Germany, unilaterally, bypassing the Russian and Chinese vetoes that would block a new UN Security Council resolution. If triggered, it would reimpose the full suite of pre-2015 UN sanctions on Iran, arms embargoes, asset freezes, financial restrictions, on top of the bilateral US sanctions and the naval blockade already in place. This is the economic nuclear option, and Rubio is telling Europe to consider using it this week, on the eve of the ceasefire expiry. The timing is deliberate. It is a signal to Tehran: if you let the ceasefire expire without a deal, the next phase is not just resumed bombing. It is resumed bombing plus a snapback that locks in UN sanctions for years, regardless of what deal is eventually reached. That is a significant escalation of the diplomatic pressure toolkit. Whether it moves Iran or hardens its position is the unknown. So what actually happens tomorrow?
Here are the 3 realistic scenarios in order of current probability. Scenario 1. Ceasefire extended. Talks announced. Both sides agree, formally or informally, to extend the pause for 30 to 45 days. Pakistan announces a date for Islamabad Round 2. No deal is signed, but no bombing resumes. This is the most likely outcome because neither side wants to be seen as the party that restarted the war, and both sides have more to lose from resumed combat than from another month of negotiation. Scenario 2. Ceasefire expires quietly. No immediate resumption of fighting. April 22nd comes and goes without a formal extension, but also without any new military action. Both sides simply continue the current operational posture. U.S. blockade in place, Iranian Hormuz conditional semi-open, no strikes, no explicit agreement. This is the gray zone. Technically wartime, operationally frozen. It is how the June 2025 12-day war ended, and it is a real possibility here. Scenario 3. Resumption of hostilities. One side takes an action, a U.S. strike on an Iranian target, an Iranian attack on a U.S. vessel or Gulf infrastructure, that formally breaks the ceasefire and triggers a new escalation cycle. This is the least likely scenario today, but it is not zero probability. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs said, "A moment's notice." Galibaf said Hormuz will not remain open. Both sides are one miscalculation away from a flashpoint. The board on the morning of April 19, 2026, Day 51, the last full day of the ceasefire, looks like this. The Hormuz is conditionally half open. The blockade has turned away 21 ships. No deal has been signed. No extension has been formally announced. Talks are possible over the weekend. The military is ready at a moment's notice. Rubio is pushing Europe toward snapback. Germany is downgrading its economy. Iran's rial has collapsed. American gas is $4.13. The midterms are 7 months away.
And Trump said, maybe I won't extend it. The next 24 hours will determine which of those three scenarios becomes reality. Come back tomorrow, because whatever happens on April 22nd, it will be the most consequential day of this entire 50-day crisis. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps more people find the board.